Imagine walking into a workshop, expecting the usual routine, and suddenly being thrown into a challenge that could change your life forever. That's exactly what happened when a successful female CEO, known for her sharp wit and no-nonsense attitude, walked into a local mechanic's garage one rainy afternoon. She wasn't there just to get her luxury car fixed. She was there with an ego, a dare, and a challenge that would shock everyone who witnessed it. The mechanic, a hard-working black man with years of experience but little recognition, had seen all kinds of clients, but nothing prepared him for this. With a smirk and a teasing tone, the CEO made a remark that would ignite the spark of a story no one could forget. "Fix this engine perfectly, and I'll marry you." It sounded absurd, almost impossible, yet her eyes held a glint of mischief, daring him to prove her wrong. What happened next wasn't just about fixing a broken engine, it became a test of skill, patience, and pride. Tension filled the air as tools clanged, and the mechanic rolled up his sleeves, knowing that this challenge was more than a job. It was a moment that could define him. As the story unfolds, you'll see how a simple garage encounter spiraled into an extraordinary tale of determination, respect, and unexpected turns. Will he succeed? And if he does, what will that mean for both of their lives? Stick around, because what happens next will leave you speechless. The mechanic wiped his hands on a rag, eyeing the engine in front of him. It wasn't just any engine, it was a high-end luxury model, complicated and delicate, the kind that demanded precision and experience. He had worked on engines all his life, but this was different. The challenge wasn't only technical, it carried the weight of pride, judgment, and an unexpected promise. He could feel the CEO watching every move, her presence sharp and impossible to ignore. Outside the garage, rain tapped against the windows, mirroring the tension in the room. The CEO's reputation as a fearless, often intimidating businesswoman preceded her, and people in the city whispered about her audacity. But here, in this modest garage, she was facing someone who refused to be impressed by status or wealth. The mechanic had grown up fixing cars with his father, learning the secrets of engines long before he ever thought about recognition or fame. Years of dedication and quiet resilience had prepared him for moments like this, though he hadn't imagined one would come under such unusual circumstances. As he studied the engine, he thought about the stakes. This wasn't just about a dare anymore, it was about respect, about proving that skill and determination mattered more than words or social power. Every click of his tools, every turn of a bolt, was a silent statement. The CEO leaned against the counter, watching with a mixture of amusement and disbelief, her challenge hanging in the air like a storm about to break. Neither of them knew how far this moment would go or how much it would change both their lives. Hours passed, and the garage seemed to shrink around them, filled with the steady rhythm of tools and the quiet intensity of two very different worlds colliding. The mechanic focused on the engine, his mind racing through each problem, each possible mistake that could ruin everything. Every wire, every valve mattered. Outside, the rain had turned into a steady downpour, streaking the windows and adding a sense of isolation. As if the world itself had paused to watch this unlikely encounter, the CEO shifted from foot to foot, her usual confidence mixing with curiosity. She had challenged countless people in boardrooms, but never someone who refused to be intimidated by her wealth or her words. For the first time, she found herself genuinely watching, not just waiting, but watching the way someone handled a real test. Someone whose life was defined by skill, patience, and pride rather than titles or money. Meanwhile, the mechanic's own thoughts kept drifting. He remembered the long nights working multiple jobs, the sacrifices made to support his family, and the constant pressure of proving himself in a world that rarely acknowledged talent alone. This challenge wasn't just about a dare anymore. It had become a quiet battle for respect, recognition, and maybe even something neither of them fully understood yet. A customer walked past the garage door, peeking in and whispering to a friend, their curiosity adding a subtle, unexpected pressure. The CEO's smirk had softened slightly, replaced with a look of anticipation. Neither of them knew what the outcome would be. But one thing was clear, this moment was changing everything, and the tension in the room was far from over. The garage was thick with tension now. Every turn of a wrench, every click of a socket, seemed louder, more deliberate, as if echoing the stakes in the small space. The mechanic's hands moved with steady precision, but his mind raced faster than ever. One wrong move, one misjudged adjustment, and the entire challenge could collapse. He felt the weight of the CEO's eyes on him, sharp and calculating, measuring his every action. It was no longer just about fixing an engine, it was about proving his skill, his patience, and his worth in a way that money or words could never express. The CEO leaned closer, curiosity mixing with a hint of incredulity. She had thrown a challenge out of jest, perhaps expecting a stumble or a refusal. But here was someone unshaken, entirely focused, calmly dismantling her assumptions. The engine, intricate and unforgiving, demanded every ounce of attention, and the mechanic delivered with quiet intensity. Sweat dripped from his brow, the garage lights reflecting off oil-streaked hands. But he didn't slow down. Outside, the rain had intensified, drumming against the roof in a relentless rhythm. The muffled sounds of the storm mirrored the growing heartbeat of the moment, amplifying the suspense. Every customer passing by seemed to hold their breath, sensing something extraordinary unfolding behind the garage doors. The mechanic paused for a fraction of a second, assessing a particularly tricky component. The CEO's smirk had vanished completely, replaced by a mix of fascination and disbelief. Neither spoke, but both knew that the next move could change everything. The tension had reached its peak, and the air itself seemed charged, waiting for the moment that would tip the scales and reveal who truly held the power in this unexpected showdown. Just as the mechanic tightened the last bolt and wiped the sweat from his forehead, a sudden beep from the engine startled both of them. Something wasn't right. The engine hummed, then coughed, as if refusing to start. The CEO's eyes widened, her confidence faltering for the first time. She had expected a flawless fix or maybe even a failure she could laugh at, but this unexpected hiccup added a new layer of tension neither of them had anticipated. The mechanic froze for a split second, his mind racing. He had double-checked every connection, every component, yet the engine's strange behavior suggested a hidden problem, something deeper than the surface. His calm demeanor began to waver, replaced by the pressure of knowing that the CEO, and now anyone who had walked past the garage, was silently judging him. He realized that this challenge had just evolved into something far bigger than either of them expected. Outside, the rain had turned into a relentless downpour, streaking the windows with blurs that seemed to mirror the confusion and rising stakes inside. A passerby knocked on the garage door, peeking in curiously, sensing the tension, their whispering adding a subtle but sharp pressure. The CEO stepped closer, now more intrigued than amused. She had started the challenge as a joke, testing him with a provocative dare. But now the stakes had escalated. What had begun as a playful moment had turned into a high-pressure test of skill, resilience, and wits. Neither of them could predict what would happen next. And the engine, unpredictable and stubborn, stood at the center of a storm that was about to redefine both their worlds. The mechanic took a deep breath, refusing to let the unexpected sputter shake his focus. Every hand movement, every adjustment was deliberate. He traced the source of the problem, a small, almost invisible misalignment buried deep in the engine. With steady precision, he corrected it, tightened the final connections, and wiped his hands. The garage fell silent, heavy with anticipation. Then he turned the key. The engine roared to life, smooth and powerful, purring like a perfectly tuned machine. The CEO's jaw dropped. What had started as a teasing challenge had transformed into a demonstration of skill, patience, and determination that even her sharp mind hadn't anticipated. She stepped closer, a mix of respect and awe replacing her earlier smirk. For a moment, it seemed like the tension had fully lifted. The mechanic had proven himself and the CEO had been humbled, but just as he was catching his breath, she pulled out her phone and smiled mysteriously. "I wasn't just testing your skill," she admitted. "I've been looking for someone to run a new division of my company, someone who can handle impossible challenges. This engine, it was just the first test." The mechanic blinked, stunned. What had seemed like a playful dare had turned into a life-changing opportunity. The CEO, once mocking and distant, now offered a partnership built on respect, not ego. The rain continued to streak the garage windows. Both of them realized this moment was far more than an engine repair. It was a turning point that neither expected. And just as the mechanic started to grasp the full scope of the opportunity, a notification on the CEO's phone revealed a message that hinted at another challenge waiting just around the corner, leaving the story with a suspenseful, unexpected twist that promised the journey. "Wow,